Finally, we're going to see the rest of the queries today. Thank you for joining. We have to update to delete our results. We can also use the chunks, retrieve data in chunks, pagination. We can have joins and we can aggregate the results of our Vapor application. So Vapor offers multiple APIs that enables us to have this kind of operations. To update records, you have this update method. This method allows you to set new values for specific fields and apply filters to determine which records should be updated. Think about a person and you would like to update the name of that person. You would probably you'd query the database, filter out the person that has an ID you provide through the API, and set the name of the person to a new name, and then call update. To delete a person or an object from your database, it's similar with update. You need to check what objects you want to delete, most likely by the ID, and then call the delete function. It's very simple. Chunk versus paginate. This is an important concept to understand, especially when you deal with a lot of data. You have a lot of data sets and you want to make more efficient the way you're processing those records in smaller subsets. You have two ways. You have chunk, which means like the records from the database are retrieved in batches, like 10 at a time, 12 at a time, whatever, 50, whatever number you set. And you process the chunks, process the data in chunks. This will be very good in terms of memory. You only load a subset of records, you don't load everything. Suppose you have millions of transactions in the database, you would probably kill the server that you run the Vapor application. And pagination, when you want to retrieve some methods, you will probably use this thing of pages. Like you want to retrieve the 20 results from page 2 and so on. It's useful when you implement pagination in the client application. You probably get the first results. You have 20 things inside the first results and the next batch and the next batch and so on until you reach the end. Why it's useful to have pagination is like maybe you have a UI where you need to load or the space for that UI to put the results is containing at maximum 20 entries, 20 rows for that. And you might not want to retrieve everything, but you'd want to fetch the data while the user performs some actions. Like in a mobile, think about scrolling. You'd scroll, then you'd probably ask the server, hey, give me the next batch of 20 results so I can populate the UI with an efficient way to display the results. You can also combine data from multiple tables, similar with SQL, with join. And Fluent supports joining tables to combine rows from 2 or more tables based on related columns. This is particularly useful when you need to retrieve related data across multiple models. You don't have everything in one place. We can also aggregate the results. And if you remember from SQL, you'd have these aggregate functions where you perform calculation to a set of values, returning a summarized, reduced value out of that. You have in Fluent methods like count, average, sum, mean, max for the data aggregation. You can directly use those methods. Cool, let's see in action how we can use them. All right, so last time we played with some filters and some eager loading stuff, and we ended up creating two methods, if I'm not mistaken, this search one, which allowed us to search persons by name, apply also some grouping and filters, and the get all names, like we learned, like we can pass all and use a specific field if you want to return just that information for the specific field. Here we're like fetching the names and we're mapping as strings right here. All right, today I'm going to walk you through the rest of the filters, the queries, and the most important ones. And we can we can start with the update one. We can use a query builder which like updates one model or more model at a time. We just put that update there. And same with delete. Like if you want to delete more than one model at a time, we can pass delete modifier. Let's create two methods that are more destructive. Let's say, if you remember, we had the person is active field, this one, the Boolean flag. But imagine like we have a UI where like people can deactivate some accounts or can update the information, like persons becoming inactive or the accounts are becoming inactive. A person might be tied with an account in some applications. And let's do an update one. I'm going to put it here. This one can be private as well. Private func deactivate person by name request async throws, and let's return an HTTP status. Okay. What I want to check here is get the parameter name. I can deactivate the person by name. It would be better to do it by an ID, by an ID, but we're like here in the example world, we try things out and that's fine. So I can take the parameter of the request content like this, request.content.get, add name, else, all right, abort. We need to do like this one is mandatory. We cannot like continue. Name is required. Required. All right, so I have the name. Now I want to fetch all persons that have that name. And I can say request database query filter. And now I can apply a filter and say name as the prefix name. If you remember, we have here the prefix, here the suffix, and here like contains the filter. We're doing the prefix this time. Okay, so if the name starts with this name that I just passed, I want to set what? I remember we created a generic function to set value. We can use this one as well, which is coming from Vapor, to false. I want to set the field is active to false. And you see it's something similar to what we did. And finally, we can call update. All right. No content. Let's imagine like it's no content. All right. And this update will like fetch all persons that share that name, say the filter is active, and do like one batch of updates. Similar with this function, we have a delete one, delete func delete. Let's delete persons by name. Request async throws HTTP status. Let's take the same name from the parameters. Name is required, and now I can do try await person.query on request database filter. Can apply the same filter, so the same thing like here, and we can just call delete after we're done. Return no content, no content, which is much easier. As you can see, like we can delete all together. We can then like update a batch, and let's connect these two methods inside the routes so we can try them out. I'm doing here persons dot put, and here let's deactivate, call this route request in, try await, and I can say deactivate person by name request, and let's also create here persons delete. I don't need an ID because I'm doing batch deletes, deletions, like multiple deletions. Try await delete persons by name, and here I can say request. All right, so we have these two. Let's try them out. Let's create a few persons that have the same name. Let's do Janet and Janet Victoria. All right, so we have two of them. I can see here is active is true. And now I can do a put. I'm doing here a put on deactivate, persons that deactivate, and I don't need to pass like any kind of information. As you can see, I just need this name. And let's try to deactivate person. Let's put here, let's do a prefix with Jan. I need to should deactivate both entries. Okay. Get persons. I can see is active false. Is active false. Janet. All right. Cool. So it worked. All right. And the next one is delete persons by name. I created a couple of tools with John Doe. Let's do John here and call delete persons that have the name John. No content, so it works. If I'm doing a get, it should return me those persons like here, but you see it has a deleted add date and a deleted add date, while the others don't have that because I haven't deleted the Janets. I only deleted the Jones. Okay, so it's working fine. I'll stop and see what we can do next. Vapor also supports joins. Like if you're a hardcore SQL person and you want to do joins between multiple tables, you can do it in Vapor as well. You can include another model's fields in your result, in your query, and more than one model can be joined with this. It's simply called join. And you have like an on parameter and you create some equality between those fields that you pass in the method. Okay, so let's create a function here. What can we do? Like we can get persons with passports, but we can do it by a join instead of that with. Let's create here a separate function inside the read mark. Private function get persons with passport request async throws, and I can return a person response content. And we do person query, of course, request adb, and we can say join, and we have multiple ways of doing the join part. I'm going to do join, and here I'm going to pass the table that I want to search on. On what? Here I need to pass the correct information. It should be person slash ID. This ID property I need to look on. And this one should be equal passport, the parent property dot ID. So the ID of the person needs to be matched with the passport of the ID. And I need to pass with here with passport for the response. I mean, it brought the passport and ID, but here I'm doing with to load the relation because I'm going to return them, right? And if I don't do that, then it won't contain the password field. You can say response content person 0 passport. That passport 0 is actually the person there. And let's try it out quickly. Let's create person slash passports. Let's create here, go to the read part. Persons get, and we can say passports request in, try await, get persons with passports request. All right, and let's create two persons, one with passport, one without passport, and see. So okay, one John, sorry, and one Johnette that has a passport number 1, 2, 3. All right, and if I'm doing a get and do passports, I'm having one result, Janet, because it has the passport. John doesn't have a passport right now, and yeah, it fetches me just that. And I did that with the join here. Good. Now, there's some important notions here. If you have like a large set of data, a big response, and there are like thousands of persons inside a database, or like tens of thousands, millions of entries, you cannot like return everything because it will crash probably your server. It will load inside the memory a large data set, and also the client needs to wait for a long time before you fetch that information from the actual database. And we usually try to cut the data into multiple places and send them like through pagination, like right. And you can divide the information into multiple parts, and you have a chunk, which is like from a server point of view, you control the number of results that you want to send. And pagination, the other part, where like the client specifies how many results per page it wants, like it wants 20, 50, 100, and so on. And as part of the response, you have a metadata, which is a JSON, a small JSON nested object, which contains like information about the current page, how many pages are in total, and result per page, of course. And the client can use that information to request additional pages. Imagine a mobile application and the user scrolls through a list of persons which are shown. And when it reaches to 50 persons, for example, and if it starts to scroll again, then we would fetch the next 50 persons from the server. And we do that through pagination. Okay, cool. I will start with chunks first, and I can destroy the get person. This method, it's like I can implement here some kind of chunks in the pagination. All right. Imagine, let's return here. Imagine that I want to implement some kind of a custom logger that first like fetches the persons and then do something with the results, index them, however, and do some, I don't know, events over the results. And let's try to do that. Let's first do persons try with query on request. Here I will have a query builder, persons query builder, all right. And now you can say persons query builder dot chunk, and let's say 2 persons for the time being. And here I have an array of results which has a person or can contain an error. Okay. And okay, this is try and also wait. For each part, for each result, let's do in results enumerated so I can get also the index and paste it to like the console, do a small print there. Check what I have from the result. If it's a success, like I have a person here, I can do something with that person. Let's put it to the console log and say processed person.name chunk number, I don't know, index out of results dot count. Okay. Or I can have an error, failure, and here I can say failed to process at index encountered error, and here I can print the error localized description. All right, so but of course I can manipulate the chunk and send back the results through chunks, like in chunks of persons. But here I'm going more into a Swift concurrency territory. If I would create here a persons array which is empty, as you can see, I need to wait for the results to finish through a task and then populate that results. I won't do it right now. Imagine like we can do chunks and get a hold of the data and send it to a log system and do something with that. Okay. And yeah, we can return here the persons by persons query period, so I don't repeat the same stuff. We deleted with passport and then all and do the map. But I can do also pagination of those results. And after you think about it, you don't need to specify all, but you need to specify a paginate property here. For what? For the request. And now the results are not anymore like person response content an array. It contains a page out of the person's response content, the DTOs. It's like this. And this page is essentially holding the items, which are the person response content. It's implemented as generics. We also have the metadata information with the page, how many items per page, and the total number. You can implement your own solution in Vapor. I don't see why it's perfectly fine. But you can use also the existing one. Okay, let's put this on the same line. 0 and here 0.passport. Okay, since this is already implemented, we can directly check it. All right, and if I'm doing a get persons, this is the method. I should see here. Hey, I saw Janet, John is being processed by chunks here. You see, it's like I have two chunks. Chunks number 0 out of 2. I mean, you can say +1, so it's more indicative here. And yeah, we do it by chunks here instead of like fetching everything. And now I have a different structure. I have this metadata, which contains like 10. I have 6 persons and page is 1. If I don't want to fetch everything, I can say per page, let's put 3 persons. And then I will get 3 persons in the array here. 1, 2, 3. As you can see, it doesn't bring me everything here. And I can do like page equals 2. Now I'm on the page 2 and it fetched me the next batch of persons. Okay, cool. Finally, if you want to just return a result or some kind of an aggregation, if you remember from SQL, you have those aggregate functions. We have the support in Vapor on query builders. We can use count, we can use maximum, minimum, and so on. Like if you go to the documentation, you'll see all methods there. I'm just going to exemplify the count function. And for that, I will need to create a separate function. Read, let's put it here inside the read group, private func. Let's do get number of persons, request. And here I can say async throws and just return a simple integer. Try await person query on request.db and I can do just count and that's it. Let's register it inside the routes. Persons.get. I can say count request in request. And if I run this function, if I run the server, sorry, not count, persons, all right. And if I do a get count, I have 4 persons. What happens if I delete one person? Let's delete one. Person/delete. All right, I deleted, and now I'm curious if it returns the count. Right, so the count got decremented. It's not showing 4. But if you want to return also the deleted and included into count, you do like with deleted as you did for the get request. So be careful with that. It's important to understand. If I'm doing the get persons, it will contain the deleted persons as well. Here in the reference, you see you have 4 persons returned, but you also have this deleted at date. Awesome. So we can conclude the queries for Vapor. I think we showed the most important ones. Of course, if you want to learn more, go to the Vapor's documentation and try them out. Thank you a lot for watching. See you next time. Bye.